"Ma'am, this entrance is for registered guests." The young man at the brass rope did not say it loudly. That made it worse. His voice stayed low and polished, the kind of voice hotel staff used when they had been trained to keep discomfort wrapped in velvet. Leah Mercer stood under the gold lights of the Ashford Meridian Hotel, with a gray folder pressed against her ribs and Mr. Samuel Price holding her left arm. Behind the glass doors, the ballroom on the 26th floor glittered with white flowers, black tuxedos, champagne trays, and a blue banner that read, "Whitcomb Health Equity Gala." Leah looked past the rope at the sign. Then she looked at the man blocking her way. "We are registered," she said. The staffer's eyes moved from her face to her coat. It was a plain navy coat, clean but tired at the cuffs, the kind she kept on the back of her office chair for long clinic days. Her shoes had seen too many parking lots. The gray folder in her hand had a bent corner from being carried between exam rooms, community meetings, and the front seat of her car. Mr. Price shifted beside her. At 71, he still tried to stand tall, but the walk from the drop-off lane had taken more out of him than he wanted to admit. "Leah," he murmured, "maybe we came to the wrong door." "We came to the door they printed on the invitation," Leah said. She took the cream-colored card from the folder pocket and held it out. The staffer glanced at it, uncertain now. Before he could answer, a woman in an ivory evening suit stepped through the doorway with a tablet in her hand and a smile that arrived before any warmth did. "Is there a problem here?" she asked. The staffer straightened. "Miss Cross, they say they're on the guest list." Vivian Cross looked at Leah. Not quickly, not rudely. She looked the way a person inspected a table setting that had been placed 1 inch out of line. "Your name?" Vivian asked. "Leah Mercer." Vivian tapped her tablet. Her smile did not move. "And your guest?" "Mr. Samuel Price. He was invited to speak during the community segment." At the word community, Vivian's eyes shifted to Mr. Price. They rested on his brown suit, the careful knot of his tie, the cane he had refused to use until Leah made him bring it. For half a second, something like recognition crossed her face. Then she buried it. "Of course," Vivian said. "Mr. Price, we are so grateful you could come." Mr. Price smiled, relieved. "Thank you, ma'am." "However," Vivian continued, turning back to Leah, "we're managing a very delicate flow tonight. Major donors, hospital leadership, press, board members. It gets crowded at the front entrance, and I would hate for either of you to be uncomfortable." Leah knew that sentence. She had heard it in different clothes for 15 years. It meant, you make someone else uncomfortable, and I am going to call it concern for you. "We're comfortable," Leah said. Vivian's smile thinned by a shade. "I'm sure, but the service elevator will take you directly to the staging area. Much easier. No stairs, no crowd, no confusion." Mr. Price's hand tightened lightly around Leah's arm. Leah felt it. "Mr. Price was invited as a speaker," she said, "not as staff." "No one said staff." Vivian gave a soft laugh for the benefit of the 2 donors passing behind her. "Please don't misunderstand me. Tonight is about dignity." Leah glanced at the brass rope. "Then let him walk through the front door." The staffer looked down. A second hotel employee pretended to adjust a flower arrangement that did not need adjusting. Behind Vivian, guests moved toward the ballroom without being asked to prove they belonged. Vivian stepped closer. Her perfume was light and expensive, something floral with a clean edge. When she spoke again, the warmth was gone, though the smile stayed. "Miss Mercer, I know these events can feel overwhelming if you're not used to them. I am trying to make this easier for everyone." "Everyone," Leah repeated. "Yes." May I have the name of the person making this decision? Vivian blinked once. Excuse me? Leah shifted the folder under her arm, pulled a black pen from the spine, and wrote the time in the top right corner of the invitation. 7:42 p.m. The name, Leah said. For my notes. Vivian stared at the pen, then at Leah's face. For the first time, irritation showed through the polish. Vivian Cross, she said, chair of tonight's organizing committee. Leah wrote it down carefully. Mr. Price leaned toward her. You don't have to make trouble for me. Leah turned to him, and her voice softened. I'm not making trouble. I'm making a record. Vivian heard that. The line of her jaw changed. Nora, she called. A woman in a black hotel blazer hurried over from the registration desk. Her name tag read Nora Ellis. She carried a clipboard thick with seating charts, timing notes, and color-coded tabs. Please escort Miss Mercer and Mr. Price through the service corridor, Vivian said. Make sure they're settled near backstage before the community video. Nora glanced at Leah. Miss Mercer? Something in Nora's expression shifted. Not recognition exactly, more like a memory trying to lift its hand. Leah reached into the folder pocket and removed the badge she had been told to bring. It was simple, white with dark blue lettering and a small QR code at the bottom. Nora took it automatically. For one breath, her eyes fixed on the middle line. Trustee sign-off access. Nora's thumb stopped against the plastic. Vivian saw the pause. It's a temporary badge, she said quickly. The hotel system has been misprinting credentials all evening. We don't need to hold up the entrance over that. Nora looked from the badge to Leah, then to Vivian. I can check the internal list if you'd like. I would not like, Vivian said, still smiling. The program starts in 18 minutes. Leah took the badge back before Vivian could reach for it. She clipped it to the inside edge of her folder, not to her coat. Is the service corridor accessible for Mr. Price? She asked. Vivian relaxed a little, as if Leah's question meant surrender. Of course, she said. We're very committed to accessibility. Mr. Price gave a small, dry cough that might have been a laugh. Leah looked at him. Do you want to go in? He looked at the banner again. His face carried more than tiredness now. It carried the careful shame of a man who had put on his best suit and still been told there was another door for him. They put my picture in their report, he said quietly. I suppose I should at least see the room. Leah nodded. Then we go together. Nora lifted the rope on the side, not the front. She seemed embarrassed by the smallness of the gesture. Leah helped Mr. Price step around the brass post, past the flower wall, and toward a narrow hallway where the carpet changed from deep blue to gray. Behind them, Vivian turned toward the staffer at the door. Keep the front clear, she said under her breath. Leah heard it anyway. They passed a stainless steel service cart loaded with folded napkins. A young waiter moved aside quickly, eyes lowered. The music from the ballroom grew softer as the service door sighed shut behind them. Mr. Price looked at the plain hallway ahead. I guess Health Equity has a back entrance, he said. Leah almost smiled. Almost. She looked back through the small window in the door. Beyond it, the blue banner glowed over the crowd, bright enough to make promises from across the room. Whitcomb Health Equity Gala. Leah touched the corner of the gray folder and kept walking. At the front entrance, Vivian leaned toward Nora before following them. People like that, she whispered, should only be visible when we introduce the video. Nora did not answer, but she looked down at Leah's badge again. The service corridor smelled like lemon cleaner, hot metal, and food waiting under silver lids. Leah walked slowly, so Mr. Price would not have to ask her to slow down. On their left, two waiters in black jackets lined up trays of champagne flutes with the focus of surgeons. On their right, a woman in a headset counted white roses in tall glass vases, lips moving silently, as if one missing flower could ruin the whole evening. No one looked surprised to see Leah there. That told her enough. Nora Ellis led them past a stack of folded tablecloths and a rolling cart filled with programs. She kept Leah's badge in her peripheral vision, the way a person might keep an eye on a candle too close to paper. "I'm sorry about the route," Nora said under her breath. Leah glanced at her. "Are you apologizing as yourself or as the hotel?" Nora's mouth opened, then closed. "As myself." "Then I accept it." Mr. Price gave Leah a sideways look. "You always make people answer the hard version. Only when the easy version hides too much." Nora heard that too. Her hand tightened around the clipboard. At the end of the corridor, the service door opened into the edge of the ballroom. The change was almost rude. One step earlier, there had been gray carpet, stacked crates, and staff whispering into headsets. One step later, there were chandeliers, gold-rimmed plates, violin music, and a wall of windows showing Chicago shining below in hard white and amber lines along the lake. Mr. Price stopped. Not because he was impressed, because his face was on a screen 30 feet wide. The video wall showed a slow-motion shot of him sitting in the waiting room of Leah's clinic, hands folded around his cane, eyes lowered. Beneath the image, white letters appeared over soft blue light. "Samuel Price, patient, Southside Community Health Partner." Mr. Price did not move for a moment. The light from the screen washed over his glasses. "That's me," he said. "Yes," Leah said quietly. "I remember the young man with the camera. They said it was for a report. Did they tell you it would be played tonight?" He swallowed once. "No." The video changed to footage of a child in a clinic hallway, a nurse opening a supply cabinet, a row of apartment buildings under winter clouds. Then the Whitcomb Foundation logo rose across the screen, clean and silver. Around the ballroom, guests lifted glasses and smiled with the soft approval of people watching suffering from a safe distance. Leah felt Mr. Price's hand loosen from her arm. That worried her more than if he had gripped tighter. "We can leave," she said. He looked at her, surprised. "Leave? If you don't want to be used this way, we can leave this room right now." Nora turned slightly. Vivian was still near the main entrance, speaking to a man with a silver lapel pin and the relaxed posture of someone whose name was printed on buildings. Mr. Price looked back at the screen. His own face had disappeared, replaced by a smiling group of donors standing outside a clinic they had probably visited once. "I said I would speak," he murmured. "You agreed to speak," Leah said. "You did not agree to be displayed." His fingers tapped once against the head of his cane. "There's a difference." "There is." He took a breath. "Then I want to know what they expect me to say before I say anything." Leah nodded. "That's fair." Nora looked down at the clipboard as if the pages might offer mercy. "Mr. Price is scheduled after the opening remarks. 2 minutes. The script says he thanks the foundation for restoring his dignity through access to care." Mr. Price turned toward her. "The script says that?" Nora's face colored. "It's the language the foundation sent us." Leah's voice stayed calm. "Who approved it?" Nora did not answer quickly enough. Vivian appeared before she could. She moved through the crowd with a glass of water in one hand and a smile ready for every donor she passed. "There you are," Vivian said. "Wonderful. Nora, why are they standing here?" "Mr. Price wanted to see the program order," Leah said. Vivian gave a light laugh. "Of course. The community segment is very simple. Warm, personal, brief. People connect best with gratitude." "He would like to read the remarks first." Vivian's eyes went to Mr. Price, and her voice softened into something almost maternal. "Mr. Price, you don't need to worry about all that. Just speak from the heart." "My heart would like to see what somebody wrote for my mouth," he said. For the first time, Vivian had no immediate smile. Leah looked down so Mr. Price would not see the corner of her mouth move. Nora gave a small cough and flipped the clipboard open. A seating chart sat on top, covered in yellow and blue tags. Leah's name had been crossed out in black pen at table 2, where several board members were listed. A new label had been written beside the stage. Community Stories. Nora saw Leah notice it. She moved the page too late. "That wasn't the original seating chart," Leah said. Vivian's voice cooled. "We had to make a few adjustments. Donor families came in larger groups than expected. So you moved me. We placed you where your presence makes the most sense for the program. Near the screen. Near the community segment." Mr. Price looked from one woman to the other. "What's table 2? No one answered him. That was answer enough. Across the ballroom, a photographer waved for 3 doctors to stand beside the Whitcomb logo. A server replaced untouched plates with cleaner, untouched plates. At the front of the room, a brass sign pointed toward a frosted glass door behind the stage. Trustee sign-off only. Leah saw it. Nora saw Leah see it. Vivian stepped into Leah's line of sight. "Miss Mercer, tonight is not the time to get caught up in seating arrangements." "I agree," Leah said. "Tonight seems to be about arrangements made before people arrive." Vivian's smile returned, thinner than before. "Careful. These events depend on trust." Leah looked at the giant screen, where another image from her clinic dissolved into a shot of champagne being poured. "That is exactly why I came." Nora's phone buzzed against the clipboard. She glanced down at the notification, then at the printed schedule beneath her thumb. 9:15 p.m. Trustee sign-off. Leah Mercer, Marcus Reed, Board Secretary. Her eyes flicked to Leah's badge again. Vivian noticed. "Nora," she said. Nora folded the schedule closed. "Yes, Miss Cross?" "Please make sure our community guests are comfortable by the stage and keep the trustee corridor clear." Leah placed one hand lightly on Mr. Price's arm. Before Mr. Price speaks, he reads the script. Vivian's gaze sharpened. That may not be possible. Then speaking may not be possible. A donor nearby turned his head. Vivian heard the shift in attention and instantly softened her face. "We all want the same thing," she said. Leah looked at the screen again, at the people in her clinic turned into background for someone else's generosity. "No," she said quietly. "I don't think we do." Mr. Price looked up at her then. Not afraid now, just tired in a different way. "Leah," he said, "if they used my face, I want my own words." Leah turned fully toward him. "Then that's what you'll have." The lights dimmed before Mr. Price could read the script. A soft chime moved through the ballroom, and the violin music faded into the kind of piano track that made every conversation lower itself out of respect. Servers stepped back against the walls. Donors turned toward the stage with glasses in their hands. On the video wall, the Whitcomb Foundation logo dissolved into a line of blue text, "Restoring dignity through care." Leah stood beside Mr. Price near the edge of the room, close enough to the stage to be seen, far enough from the board tables to understand where Vivian had placed them. "That's a big word," Mr. Price said. "Dignity?" "Restoring." Leah looked at him. He kept his eyes on the screen. "People talk like they found it in their pocket and gave it back." Before Leah could answer, applause rose across the room. Vivian Cross walked onto the stage in her ivory suit, one hand over her heart, her smile soft enough for the cameras. "Good evening, friends," Vivian said. Her voice filled the room, warm, steady, practiced. "Tonight, we gather not only to raise funds, but to listen. To listen to the neighborhoods too often ignored. To listen to patients who wait too long, mothers who drive too far, seniors who choose between medication and groceries. The Whitcomb Foundation believes healthcare is not charity, it is dignity." The applause came right on time. Leah watched the donors clap while Mr. Price's face appeared again in the corner of the screen behind Vivian. His image was smaller now, one piece of a montage. His hands, a clinic hallway, a nurse smiling, a child holding a sticker. No one had asked him how it felt to be part of the wallpaper. Vivian continued, "And dignity means partnership. It means giving communities a voice." Leah's fingers tightened once around the gray folder. Nora stood near a side column with her clipboard against her chest. She was not looking at the stage. She was looking at the hallway behind it, where the frosted glass door marked "Trustee Sign-Off Only" sat half hidden by a floral arch. The speech went on for 6 minutes. It named neighborhoods. It named hospitals. It named donors. It did not name the people whose pictures were being used, except when the names made the room feel generous. Then Vivian turned slightly, as if the thought had just come to her. "Before we proceed," she said, "I would love to invite one of our community partners to share a brief word from the heart." Leah felt Mr. Price stiffen. Vivian smiled toward their section. "Miss Mercer, would you stand for us?" The nearest tables turned. Leah did not move immediately. That made more people turn. Vivian kept smiling. "Just a few words. Nothing technical. Tonight is about connection." Mr. Price whispered, "She means you." "I know." Leah stood. She did it slowly, not because she was nervous, but because she refused to be pulled up like a prop from a box. Her navy coat looked darker under the ballroom lights. The gray folder stayed under her arm. Vivian's eyes flicked to the folder. "Wonderful. Tell us what access to compassionate care means to families like yours." Families like yours. The words passed through the room, wrapped in silk, but Leah felt the edge. She looked at Mr. Price first, then at the screen behind Vivian, where his face had appeared without his full consent. Then at the donors waiting for a clean story with a warm ending. "I came tonight for documents," Leah said. The room adjusted itself around the sentence. Vivian's smile held. "Of course, and we are all grateful for the work your little clinic does." Leah did not correct little. Not yet. "I did not come to perform anyone's pain," she said, "and I won't ask Mr. Price to do that either." Somewhere near the front, a woman lowered her wine glass. Vivian gave a gentle laugh, the kind used to guide a room away from discomfort. "I think Miss Mercer is simply overwhelmed. These stories are emotional, and rightly so." Leah looked back at her. "I'm not overwhelmed." "No one is asking for a performance," Vivian said. You gave him a script. A ripple moved through the tables closest to the stage. Vivian's hand shifted against the microphone. We prepare remarks to help guests feel comfortable. Did Mr. Price see his remarks before tonight? Vivian turned her face toward the audience, not Leah. Our team works very hard to protect community guests from unnecessary pressure. That wasn't my question. The words were quiet. They landed anyway. A man at table 1 leaned toward the woman beside him. His silver lapel pin caught the stage light. Leah recognized him from the donor wall near the entrance. Franklin Avery, listed as a lead sponsor for the pediatric wing expansion. Vivian recognized the shift in him too. Miss Mercer, she said, still smiling. Perhaps this is a conversation for later. We have hundreds of guests here tonight who came to support your community. Then they can hear the truth about how my community is being treated in this room. Mr. Price looked down at his cane. His jaw worked once. Leah saw it and stopped there. She had said enough for now. Vivian stepped forward, reclaiming the air. Thank you, Miss Mercer. Truly. That passion is exactly why this work matters. The applause that followed was uncertain. Some people clapped because they wanted the moment repaired. Others did not clap because they had finally noticed the break. Leah sat down. Mr. Price leaned toward her. You didn't let them put words in my mouth. Not tonight. You know she won't forgive that. Leah looked at Vivian, who had already turned back to the donors. I wasn't asking her to. On stage, Vivian moved smoothly into the next section. She thanked hospital partners. She thanked sponsors. She thanked the event committee for honoring every voice. Each sentence polished the air where Leah's refusal had made a mark. Near the side of the stage, a small black camera sat tucked under the lip of the lighting rig. It pointed toward the podium and the first rows of tables. A tiny red light blinked beneath its lens. Leah noticed it because she noticed everything in rooms where power pretended to be kindness. Vivian noticed something else. Franklin Avery was no longer smiling. During the transition to the next video, she stepped away from the microphone and leaned toward a young assistant in a black dress. If she won't read the line, Vivian whispered, cut her out of the sign-off room. I don't want her near the trustees until she understands the tone of the evening. The assistant nodded too quickly. The camera kept blinking. Nora, standing by the column, heard enough to look up. She did not interrupt. She did not run to Leah. She simply wrote something on the back of the seating chart with a hotel pen, folded the page once, and slid it under the metal clip. Vivian returned to the microphone as if nothing had happened. And now, she said, before we move toward the formal portion of our evening, please enjoy this short tribute to the lives your generosity has touched. The lights dimmed further. Another video began. Leah watched the frosted glass door behind the stage. Trustee sign-off only. A hotel staffer she had not seen before moved into position beside it, hands clasped in front of him, eyes forward. Not security, not exactly, but a body placed where a question might try to enter. Mr. Price saw him too. That door matter? Leah kept her voice low. Yes. You going through it? She looked at the blinking camera, then at the gray folder in her lap, then at Vivian, smiling under the blue light of someone else's suffering. When it's time, Leah said. The tribute video ended with a close-up of a child's hand pressed against a clinic window. The room applauded. Leah did not. She was watching the man by the frosted glass door. He had no badge that said security, no earpiece, no hard look in his face. He was simply a hotel staffer with folded hands, standing in the exact place Vivian needed a body to stand. That was how power worked when it wanted to look clean. Vivian came down from the stage while the applause was still warm. She did not walk straight to Leah. She stopped first at table 1, touched Franklin Avery lightly on the shoulder, and said something that made him nod without smiling. Then she spoke to a board member in a black dress, then to a man Leah recognized from the printed program as Dr. Alan Pierce, chair of the Hospital Partnership Committee. By the time Vivian reached Leah, she had gathered an audience without appearing to gather one. "Ms. Mercer," Vivian said, "may I have a quiet word?" Leah looked at Mr. Price, who was still sitting with both hands around his cane. "Here is fine," Leah said. Vivian's smile tightened. "I'd prefer not to make you uncomfortable in front of guests." "Then don't." Nora, standing a few feet away, lowered her clipboard slightly. Vivian took a slow breath. "A document packet was reported near the VIP preparation area. Since you mentioned documents earlier, we need to make sure there hasn't been any confusion." Leah looked at the gray folder in her lap. "What kind of confusion?" "I'm sure it's nothing," Vivian said. "Nora can take a quick look at your folder and clear it up." Nora's head lifted. "Miss Cross." Vivian did not look at her. "It's a simple courtesy." Leah kept her hand on the folder. "Is every guest being asked to open their documents?" "Every guest is not carrying unidentified paperwork near a restricted signing area." "My folder has my name on it." Names can be written on anything. The words were not loud. They did not need to be. They traveled to the nearby tables with the help of silence. Mr. Price pushed himself upright. "She came in with that folder." Vivian softened her face toward him. "Mr. Price, no one is accusing anyone. You just did it politely." A few people looked away. Leah felt a pulse of anger rise in her chest. She let it come. Then, she let it settle. Anger was useful, only after it learned to stand still. "Nora," Leah said, "has Miss Cross asked you to inspect any other guests' private papers tonight?" Nora's fingers tightened around the clipboard. Vivian turned slightly. "Nora is not part of this conversation. You asked her to inspect my folder because you are making this more difficult than it needs to be." "No," Leah said. "I'm asking whether the rule exists or whether it was made when I arrived." Franklin Avery's chair shifted softly against the carpet. Vivian heard it. Her smile returned for the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, please forgive this interruption," she said, turning just enough for the nearby donors to feel included. "Miss Mercer has had an emotional evening, and we want to be sensitive to that." Leah did not move. Vivian continued, voice gentle, almost sorrowful. "Events like this can be overwhelming. The lights, the donors, the formal schedule. Sometimes community partners feel pressure they are not prepared for." Mr. Price's cane struck the floor once. Not hard. Enough. "I was prepared to speak," he said. "I was invited to speak." Vivian looked at him with practiced concern. "And we value that deeply." "Then why did you put me by my own picture, like a decoration?" The question opened something in the air. Leah turned toward him. "Mr. Price." He shook his head. Not at her, but at the room. "I got dressed for this," he said. "Leah made me bring the cane because she worries. I read the invitation twice. I thought I was coming to tell people what the clinic did for me. Then I get here, and my face is already 30 feet tall, and somebody has written gratitude for me like I can't find my own." No one clapped this time. Vivian's eyes hardened for half a second. Then she covered it with pity. "Mr. Price," she said, "you are clearly moved. That is understandable. But we cannot let a misunderstanding derail an evening meant to help thousands." "A misunderstanding?" he asked. "Yes," Vivian said, "and Miss Mercer has unfortunately escalated it." Leah looked at Vivian. "I asked to see a script. You challenged the program in front of donors because the program used his face and his story. With permission." Mr. Price's voice was low. "Not for this." Vivian did not answer him. She turned toward Leah again, and now her tone changed. Still polite, sharper underneath. "Miss Mercer, I think the most constructive path is simple. Apologize for the disruption. Allow Mr. Price to participate as scheduled, and we can all move forward." Leah heard the trap. If she apologized, the room would remember disruption, not disrespect. If she refused, Vivian would call that pride. "Apologize for what, exactly?" Leah asked. Vivian's smile did not reach her eyes. "For making invited guests uncomfortable." "Which guests?" "This is not a deposition." "Then don't ask me for a statement." Dr. Pierce stepped closer, uncomfortable but curious. "Vivian, perhaps we should take this into the side room." Vivian seized the opening. "Exactly. Miss Mercer, if you would step away from the trustee corridor and compose yourself, we can revisit your concerns after the formal signing." Leah looked toward the frosted glass door. The staffer still stood there. "After the signing," Leah repeated. "Yes." "And before the signing, you want my folder inspected, Mr. Price quiet, and me apologizing?" Vivian's face cooled. "Before the signing, I want assurance that no one is attempting to influence a restricted funding process outside proper channels." There it was. Not shouted. Worse. Laid carefully on the table where everyone could see it and pretend it had not been placed there. Mr. Price stared at Vivian. "Are you saying she came here to take money?" Vivian lifted both hands slightly. "I am saying the board has a responsibility to protect the integrity of a $38 million commitment." Leah felt the room tilt toward the number. $38 million changed how people heard everything. Nora looked down at the back of the seating chart, where she had written Vivian's earlier words. Her pen hovered, but did not move. Across the room, near the registration table, a woman in a charcoal suit checked her phone. Marianne Holt, board secretary. Leah knew her from the email chain, though Marianne did not yet seem to recognize Leah from across the crowd. The phone lit her face. Marianne opened the message. "Do not proceed without Mercer confirmation. Marcus Reed." Her eyes lifted from the screen and searched the room. Leah did not see the email. She saw Marianne looking. That was enough to mark for later. Vivian stepped closer to Leah, lowering her voice again. "You can still fix this," she said. "A short apology. A little grace. Everyone here wants to support your people." "My people." Leah set the gray folder on the small cocktail table beside her. She kept her palm flat on the cover. "Mr. Price is not apologizing for wanting his own words," she said. "I am not apologizing for asking why his words were written for him. And I am not handing private documents to someone because you invented a rule after I walked through the wrong door." Vivian's jaw tightened. "Then you leave me no choice." She turned to the staffer by the frosted glass door and gave a small nod. "Please keep Ms. Mercer away from the trustee corridor until she is calm and cooperative." The staffer shifted his stance. Leah did not step back. She looked at Vivian, then at the folder under her hand. "Put that in the notes, too," she said. Nora Ellis had worked enough galas to know the difference between confusion and instruction. Confusion looked like missing place cards, late flowers, donors who forgot meal choices, a keynote speaker trapped in traffic on Lakeshore Drive. Instruction looked like Vivian Cross smiling at one person while moving another person out of sight. Tonight had stopped feeling confused. It felt arranged. Nora stepped back from the edge of the crowd and opened her clipboard again. She did not go to Leah. She did not look toward Vivian. She turned one page, then another, as if she were checking dinner counts. The original seating chart was under the revised one. Leah Mercer, Table 2. Mr. Samuel Price, Table 2 Guest Speaker Escort. 9:15 p.m. Trustee Sign-Off. Leah Mercer, Marcus Reed, Board Secretary. Nora's throat tightened. At the cocktail table near the stage, Leah still stood with one hand resting on the gray folder. Mr. Price sat beside her, shoulders squared now, cane between his knees. The hotel staffer remained near the frosted glass door, not blocking anyone else, only the path Leah might take. Vivian was speaking with Dr. Pierce and two board members in low tones. Nora looked at Leah's badge again. It was clipped to the inside edge of the folder, half hidden by Leah's hand. The white plastic caught the blue stage light whenever Leah shifted. Trustee Sign-Off Access. Nora had seen misprinted badges before. Wrong meal category, wrong table color. Once, an entire row of sponsor badges had printed without names. But access labels did not invent themselves. They came from a different system, one tied to secure rooms and internal approvals. She pulled out her phone, not her personal phone, the hotel event device. Her thumb hovered over the scanner app. Nora. Vivian's voice cut through the music without rising above it. Nora looked up. Vivian was watching her. "A word?" Vivian said. Nora walked over, clipboard against her stomach. "Yes, Miss Cross?" Vivian turned slightly away from the nearest table. Her smile stayed available in case anyone looked. "Why is Miss Mercer still in this area?" "She's beside the table where you asked her to wait." "I asked her to compose herself away from the trustee corridor." "She's not in the corridor." Vivian's eyes sharpened. "Don't split hairs with me tonight." Nora felt heat climb her neck. Her badge may not be a misprint. Vivian's smile did not change, but the rest of her face went still. "Excuse me?" "The access line matches the original schedule. Leah Mercer is listed for the 9:15 sign-off with Marcus Reed and the board secretary." That schedule was preliminary. It is marked final. Vivian glanced past Nora toward Leah. "Nora, I know you want to do your job well, but this is not the moment to create a problem for yourself." The words landed softly. That made them heavier. Nora looked down at the clipboard, her thumb pressed into the metal clip until it hurt. "I just think we should verify before we keep her out." "We are verifying," Vivian said, "through the proper people." "Who are the proper people?" Vivian's eyes flicked to Dr. Pierce, then back. "The board." "The board secretary just received an email." That was too much. Nora knew it as soon as she said it. Vivian's smile disappeared. "You are event staff," Vivian said quietly. "Do not mistake proximity for authority." Nora took half a step back. Leah saw it. She did not rush in. She lifted the folder from the table and walked over with Mr. Price beside her. She moved slowly enough that no one could accuse her of causing a scene. "Is there a problem with the event list?" Leah asked. Vivian turned to her. "The only problem is that you continue to insert yourself into a process that does not concern you." Leah looked at Nora. "Does the list show my name?" Nora's lips parted. Vivian stepped in. Nora does not answer to you. No, Leah said, but the list answers to someone. Dr. Pierce frowned slightly. Vivian, if there is a scheduling issue, we should clarify it before the trustees gather. There is no issue, Vivian said. Miss Mercer has misunderstood her role. Mr. Price gave a tired laugh. Funny how everybody knows her role except the paper. Leah touched his arm gently. He quieted, but he did not look sorry. Vivian pointed to the gray folder. Then let us settle it. If that folder contains official materials, someone from the board can review them. Which someone? Leah asked. Dr. Pierce is here. Dr. Pierce looked startled. I'm not trust counsel. Vivian's jaw moved once. Then Nora can hold it until counsel arrives. No, Leah said. The word was not sharp. It was a closed door. Vivian's face cooled. You refuse to cooperate, and yet you expect us to believe you came here in good faith. This folder can be opened with Marcus Reed present, Leah said, or with the board secretary present. Not before. Vivian studied her. For the first time, Leah saw something like uncertainty move beneath Vivian's anger. It lasted only a second, but it was there. You seem very familiar with our internal process, Vivian said. Leah did not answer. She did not need to. Nora looked at the badge again. Her courage came in a small, practical form. She lifted the hotel event device and scanned the QR code before she could talk herself out of it. The screen loaded slowly. Vivian saw the motion. Nora! But the page had already opened. Nora stared at it. The top line read, Whitcomb Foundation, Internal Access. Below that, smaller, Trustee Sign-Off Access, Community Integrity Proxy, Final Confirmation Pending. The rest of the page was locked behind a board login. Nora did not read it aloud. She did not have to. Leah saw the reflection of the screen in Nora's eyes. Vivian saw Nora's face. That is enough, Vivian said. Nora lowered the device. Dr. Pierce looked from Nora to Leah. What did it say? A partial access page, Nora said carefully. It confirms the badge is connected to the Foundation system. Vivian gave a short laugh. Connected does not mean authorized. These systems talk to each other all the time. Vendor lists, guest lists, hotel access, Foundation access. That is exactly how errors happen. Then we should call Marcus Reed, Nora said. Vivian turned on her. Not with volume, with disappointment. I am trying to protect this evening, Nora. You are making that harder. Nora's face went pale. Leah stepped closer, not in front of Nora, but beside her. Put that in the notes too, Leah said again. Vivian looked at her. You keep saying that as if notes change reality. Sometimes they preserve it. Before Vivian could answer, her phone vibrated on the small table beside a row of untouched champagne glasses. The screen lit up. Marcus Reed. Trust Counsel Vivian looked at the name. So did Leah. So did Nora. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Then Vivian picked up the phone and pressed decline. The screen went dark. Dr. Pierce stared at her. Was that Marcus? This is not the time, Vivian said. Her phone buzzed again immediately. Marcus Reed. Trust Counsel Vivian. Vivian pressed decline a second time, faster. Then she turned to Nora with a voice quiet enough that the nearest donors had to lean in to hear it. "No one brings Miss Mercer into that room," she said, "until I say so." Leah looked past Vivian toward the frosted glass door. The staffer was still standing there, but now he looked less certain. Vivian's phone rang a third time. This time, it did not ring in her hand. It rang from across the room, on the phone of Marianne Holt, the board secretary, who stood near the registration table with her eyes still searching for Leah Mercer. Marianne looked at the name on her screen. "Marcus Reed." Then she answered. "Marcus, I'm here," she said, pressing one finger to her other ear to hear over the ballroom music. Vivian saw her. Leah saw Vivian see her. That was when the room began to change. Not all at once. Rooms like that did not turn quickly. They shifted by inches. A donor stopped speaking mid-sentence. Dr. Pierce looked toward Marianne. Nora lowered the hotel device and held it against her clipboard like evidence she was afraid to drop. Marianne's face tightened. "No," she said into the phone. "She is not in the room yet." She listened. "Yes, Leah Mercer is here." Another pause. "I don't know why she hasn't been brought in." Vivian moved toward her. "Marianne, we are handling a disruption." Marianne covered the phone. "Marcus is asking why Ms. Mercer is not present for trustee sign-off." "Because Ms. Mercer has been creating confusion," Vivian said. Marianne's expression changed. It was subtle, but Leah caught it. The difference between accepting an explanation and filing it away for later. Into the phone, Marianne said, "Marcus, I'm putting you on speaker." Vivian's smile returned too late. Marcus Reed's voice came through clear and dry with no music in it. "Who is present?" Marianne looked around. Vivian Cross, Dr. Alan Pierce, Nora Ellis from the hotel, Leah Mercer, Mr. Samuel Price. Several board members are nearby. "Good," Marcus said. "Then someone please explain why the community integrity proxy is standing outside the trustee room." No one breathed loudly. Leah kept her hand on the gray folder. Vivian stepped in quickly. "Marcus, with respect, Miss Mercer refused to cooperate with basic event procedures. She disrupted the program, challenged prepared remarks, and declined to let staff verify materials she brought near a restricted area." "Did she identify the folder as trust materials?" Marcus asked. Vivian hesitated. "She claimed they should only be opened with you or the board secretary present." "That is correct." The words did not boom. They did not need to. Dr. Pierce looked at Leah again. Differently this time. Marianne straightened. "Marcus, do you want the trust folder opened?" "Yes, with you present. Miss Mercer may open it." Vivian reached toward the folder as if the motion were natural. Leah did not move her hand. "I will open it," Leah said. Marcus heard her. "Leah, are you all right?" The question was simple. It was the first one that sounded like it expected a real answer. Leah looked at Mr. Price, at Nora, at the staffer by the door, at Vivian. "Not completely," she said, "but I'm standing." Mr. Price nodded once. Leah opened the gray folder. Inside was a set of documents clipped in 3 sections. The top page bore the raised seal of Cook County and the formal name of the Whitcomb Health Equity Fund. Beneath it sat a printed email chain with Marianne Holt's name on it, Marcus Reed's, and Leah's. The last section was marked Community Integrity Addendum. Marianne came closer. Her face went pale when she saw her own email at the top. "This is the final packet," she said. Marcus spoke through the phone. "For clarity, Community integrity proxy is a role created in Eleanor Whitcomb's trust agreement. It is not a public legal title. It applies to this fund because Eleanor required final community confirmation before release of major grants. Vivian folded her arms. That does not mean Miss Mercer controls the board. No, Marcus said. It means the board cannot release the $38 million commitment without her confirmation that the foundation complied with the community integrity terms. The number landed again. This time, it landed on Vivian. Franklin Avery had stepped closer without anyone inviting him. And what are those terms? Marcus paused. Respectful treatment of community representatives. No use of patient image or testimony outside documented consent. No exclusion of community delegates from decision spaces relevant to their testimony. And no retaliation for raising concerns during the review period. Nora closed her eyes for 1 second. Only one. Then she opened them. I need to say something, she said. Vivian turned. Nora? Be very careful. I am being careful. Nora's voice shook, but it held. Miss Mercer and Mr. Price were listed for the front entrance and table 2. Miss Cross told me to escort them through the service corridor. Later, she had Miss Mercer's seat moved to community stories near the stage. Vivian looked at the board members. That was an event flow adjustment. Nora held up the seating chart. The adjustment happened after Ms. Cross saw what they were wearing. The words were not polished. That made them harder to dismiss. Marcus said, Noted. Mr. Price stood then. It took effort. Leah reached toward him, but he shook his head gently. I can stand for this, he said. He looked at the board members first, not Vivian. My face is in your video, he said. My hands. My clinic visits, my name. I was told it was for a report. I was not told I would be on that wall tonight, bigger than myself, while someone else wrote grateful words for me. I came to speak as a man. Not as proof that your money has a soul. Franklin Avery looked down. So did Dr. Pierce. Vivian's mouth tightened. Mr. Price is upset, understandably. But emotion can make things seem harsher than they were. A woman's voice came from behind the second row of tables. No, they were that harsh. Everyone turned. A woman in a plain black dress stood near the side aisle. She had a staff badge tucked into her clutch, not clipped to her clothes. Leah did not know her, but Vivian did. Vivian's face changed before she could stop it. Dana, she said. The woman stepped forward. Dana Wilkes. I used to work for the foundation. Marcus's voice sharpened. Ms. Wilkes, were you invited to speak? No, Dana said. I bought a donor seat with my own money because I wanted to see if anything had changed. Vivian gave a brittle laugh. This is absurd. Dana looked at Marianne. Last year, I flagged that community representatives were being removed from meeting minutes if they disagreed with public messaging. I was told my tone was not aligned with donor confidence. Marianne's hand went to the folder. Do you have documentation? Yes. Emails, draft minutes, red lines. Vivian shook her head. Disgruntled former staff. Dana did not look at her. I was scared of you then. I'm less scared now. The sentence did something Nora's chart and Mr. Price's testimony had not. It widened the room. This was no longer one bad entrance, one bad seating change, one bad speech. It had a pattern. Leah felt the weight of that pattern settle over the folder. Marcus spoke again. Marianne, the trust packet is sufficient to confirm Ms. Mercer's role. The testimony should be documented separately. Do not proceed to signing until the board has heard Ms. Mercer. Vivian stepped toward the phone. Marcus, this is becoming a public spectacle. "Then move it to the trustee room," Marcus said, "where Ms. Mercer should have been 20 minutes ago." Marianne looked at Leah. Her voice was different now. "Ms. Mercer, would you please join us in the trustee room?" The staffer by the frosted glass door moved aside before anyone told him to. Leah picked up the gray folder. Mr. Price touched her sleeve. "You all right?" She smiled faintly. Still standing. Inside the trustee room, the noise of the ballroom softened behind the glass. A long table waited with pens laid out in a neat row. At the center sat a ceremonial fountain pen beside a printed resolution authorizing the release of funds. Marianne placed the trust packet in front of Leah. "We can complete the signature now," she said, too quickly. Leah looked at the pen, then at the people around the table. Vivian stood near the wall, still upright, still composed, but no longer in the center. Leah did not pick up the pen. "Before I sign," she said, "I need to ask one question." No one interrupted. Leah looked through the frosted glass toward the ballroom, where Mr. Price stood beside Nora and Dana Wilkes. "Do you want this money released quietly?" she asked. "Or do you want to understand what just happened to the people this foundation claims to serve?" For several seconds after Leah's question, the trustee room stayed quiet. The ballroom music pressed softly against the frosted glass. Silver pens waited on the table. The printed resolution sat open, one blank line still waiting for Leah Mercer. Vivian Cross was the first to move. She stepped away from the wall with a careful smile, the kind she had used all evening when she wanted discomfort to look like misunderstanding. "I think we all know the answer," she said. "This foundation exists to serve communities. That is why we are here. But we cannot allow one person to use the language of community to hold an entire medical grant hostage." Marianne Holt looked down at the trust packet. Franklin Avery, the largest donor in the room, folded his hands and said nothing. Vivian took that silence as permission. "Leah has been heard," she continued. "Mr. Price has been heard. A former employee with unresolved feelings has been heard. But I am simply recommending that the board complete the signature process tonight and review these concerns through the proper channel tomorrow." Leah stood beside the table. She had not taken the chair Marianne offered. She had not touched the pen. "The proper channel is in this room," she said. Vivian's smile tightened. "That is your interpretation." The phone on the table was still connected to Marcus Reed. His voice came through the speaker, calm and dry. "It is also mine." Vivian looked at the phone as if it had betrayed her personally. Marcus continued. "The Community Integrity Appendix requires the board to consider how designated community representatives are treated during the grant event itself, especially when those representatives are present for sign-off." "Marcus," Vivian said, "with respect, this is not a trial." "No," he said. "It is a condition of release." The sentence landed harder than any raised voice could have. Vivian glanced toward the frosted glass, where shapes moved beyond it. Guests were still waiting in the ballroom. Servers were still pouring wine. The gala program was still moving toward the public signing ceremony that Vivian had promised would be flawless. Her face changed only a little, but Leah saw the calculation behind it. Vivian turned to Marianne. "Then we should be accurate," she said. "If there were logistical mistakes, they were made by event staff. Nora was handling check-in, seating changes, access routes. She is young. She was overwhelmed. I will not have this foundation judged by one assistant's poor execution." Marianne's eyes lifted. Through the glass, Nora Ellis stood just outside the door with Mr. Price and Dana Wilkes. She was holding the folded seating chart in both hands. Marianne opened the door. "Nora," she said gently, "please come in." Nora entered as if every step had weight. Her face was pale, but her voice did not shake when she spoke. "I did not choose the service route," she said, "and I did not move Miss Mercer to community stories on my own." Vivian laughed once, softly. "Nora, be careful. You are confused." Nora looked at Leah first, then at Marianne. "I wrote down what I heard because I was confused," she said. "Then Miss Cross texted me." She placed her phone on the table, screen up. The message was short. "Move Mercer off trustee flow. Put her near stage with Price. No trustee corridor unless she cooperates." The message held the table for a beat. Nora swallowed. "There is another one," she said. She tapped the screen. "If she refuses the line, keep her away from sign-off until I clear it." Both messages had come through the hotel's event coordination channel, time-stamped minutes after Leah refused the prepared line. Vivian's composure flickered. Not enough for the donors to call it panic. Enough for everyone in that room to know she had seen the floor disappear beneath her. "Those are operational notes," Vivian said. "You are presenting them without context." Leah's voice stayed quiet. "What was the line?" Vivian did not answer. Mr. Price answered from the doorway. "The one where I thanked them for seeing people like me," he said. The room turned toward him. Mr. Price stood with one hand on the doorframe. He looked tired now, but not small. "Except they did not see me," he said. "They saw the picture." Franklin Avery finally spoke. "Miss Cross, were you planning to exclude Miss Mercer from the signing room if she refused to read a prepared emotional statement?" Vivian lifted her chin. "I was trying to preserve the integrity of a live event." "That is not an answer," Franklin said. Vivian looked around the table, searching for a familiar ally and finding only people who suddenly needed documents in front of them. Then she made the choice that ended her control of the night. "If we are going to examine every hallway conversation," she said, "then we should remember this is a private event with VIP guests. We cannot start pulling camera footage because someone dislikes how they were seated." Nora looked at Marianne. Marianne looked at the camera monitor mounted near the corner of the trustee room. Marcus spoke from the phone. "Is there a timestamp relevant to the stage-side instruction?" Nora nodded. "Around 8:37, stage left, near the service door." Vivian's voice sharpened for the first time all night. "I object to opening security footage in front of donors." Franklin's expression did not change. "I object to donating through a foundation that hides behind privacy when the truth becomes inconvenient," he said. Marianne reached for the room phone and called hotel security. No one sat while they waited. The delay lasted less than 2 minutes, but it stretched through the room like a wire. Leah could hear the muffled applause from the ballroom as another speaker finished. She imagined the guests lifting glasses, unaware that the real decision was no longer happening under the chandeliers. The small monitor flickered. Hotel security did not play the ballroom feed. They opened a single, muted clip from the camera near the stage. The angle was high and slightly distant, but clear enough. Vivian appeared on screen beside Nora. Leah stood several feet away with Mr. Price, refusing the printed script. The clip had no sound at first. Then security raised the audio attached to the camera. Vivian's recorded voice came through thin but recognizable. "If she will not read the line, cut her out of the sign-off room. Put someone at the trustee corridor. Tell Marianne I am handling it." The clip ended. No one reached for the pen. Vivian stared at the monitor. For the first time that evening, she had no polished sentence ready. Franklin turned to Mary Ann. "This fund has community oversight," he said. "Why has no one in this room ever heard Miss Mercer speak before tonight?" No answer came quickly. That was answer enough. Leah looked at the open resolution. The pen still waited beside it, shining under the recessed lights. Earlier that evening, Vivian had tried to make Leah visible only when pain was useful. Now the entire room was looking at her. But Leah did not feel triumphant. She felt responsible. Mary Ann stood. "Ms. Cross," she said, "pending formal board review, you are relieved of authority over tonight's grant proceedings and all related public communications." Vivian's mouth opened. Mary Ann continued before she could speak. "You will not return to the stage. You will not contact staff about seating, footage, donor messaging, or the signing process." Vivian looked toward Franklin. He did not help her. Then she looked at Leah, and for a moment the anger showed plainly. "You understand what you are risking," Vivian said. $38 million. Leah closed the trust packet with one hand. "No," she said. "I understand what the money is for." She turned to Mary Ann. "I am pausing my confirmation until there is a written corrective record tonight. Not a general apology. A record. Who was excluded? Who authorized it? How patient stories were used? What changes before this grant is released?" Mary Ann nodded slowly. Marcus's voice came through the phone. "That is within her authority." Vivian stood alone near the wall, still dressed for the center of the room, with no room left to command. Leah did not look back at her. She looked at the pen. Then she moved it away from the signature line. When the trustee room door opened again, the ballroom had already begun to notice the delay. The lights were still warm. The flowers still towered over the tables. The stage still held the wide blue backdrop with the Whitcomb crest, and the words $38 million for health equity, printed large enough for every camera to love. But the room felt different now. Guests had turned in their chairs. A few donors checked their phones. A server stood still near the champagne station, tray balanced in both hands, unsure whether the celebration had paused or ended. Vivian Cross did not return to the stage. Mary Ann Holt did. She walked with Franklin Avery on one side and Leah Mercer on the other. Mr. Price followed more slowly, with Nora and Dana Wilkes a few steps behind him. Leah still carried the gray trust packet. The ceremonial pen remained in the trustee room, untouched beside the open resolution. That absence mattered. People noticed. The master of ceremonies moved toward Mary Ann with a bright, anxious smile. "Are we ready for the signing?" Mary Ann took the microphone from him. "Not yet," she said. The smile disappeared. A low murmur moved through the ballroom. Mary Ann faced the guests. She did not read from the program. She did not mention donor confidence. She did not say there had been a scheduling issue, which would have been easier. "The foundation is pausing tonight's grant signing," she said, "to review a violation of the community integrity terms attached to the release of funds." The murmur grew louder. At the front table, one board member leaned toward another and whispered, "We should not be saying this publicly." Franklin heard him. He stepped to the second microphone. "Yes," he said, "we should." That quiet sentence did more than the microphone. It settled the room. Mary Ann continued. "Earlier tonight, designated community representatives were moved away from the entrance, the signing process, and the decision space, where they were required to be present. Patient stories and images were also used in ways that now require immediate review. No one named Vivian. No one needed to. Leah stood beside the stage steps, not on them. She did not want the spotlight to turn her into the new symbol the Gala could applaud and forget. Mr. Price stood near her, his eyes fixed on the large screen that had shown his hands, his clinic visits, his tired smile. For the first time that night, the screen was dark. Marianne turned toward Leah. "Miss Mercer," she said, "on behalf of the board, I apologize to you, to Mr. Price, and to every community representative who was treated as decoration instead of authority." There was a soft wave of reaction across the ballroom. Some guests looked relieved, as if apology itself meant the hard part was over. Leah knew that feeling. She had seen it in hospital meetings, city hearings, grant interviews. People liked apology because it sounded like repair, without yet costing anything. She took the microphone Marianne offered. "Thank you," Leah said. Then she let the words rest there, small and unfinished. "But I cannot accept a general apology as a substitute for correction." The room quieted. Leah looked toward the tables where clinic workers, donors, lawyers, and trustees sat under the same expensive lights. This grant is supposed to serve people who are often asked to prove their pain before anyone believes they deserve care. Tonight, that same habit showed up inside the foundation. Mr. Price was invited as a speaker, but his words were prepared for him. My role was required by the trust, but I was treated as a disruption when I would not perform gratitude on command. She did not raise her voice. That made the room listen harder. "Before I consider signing, I am asking for 4 written conditions." Marianne nodded to a board aide, who opened a laptop at the front table. Leah counted on her fingers. "First, the foundation will publicly identify the real role of community representatives in grant decisions, not as stories, not as photos, as participants with authority." The aide typed. "Second, the foundation will create a community oversight council with voting power over health equity grants, including representatives chosen by clinics and patient groups, not selected only by donor relations." A man at the board table shifted in his chair. "That requires governance review," he said. Marcus Reed's voice came through Marianne's phone on the lectern speaker. "Then begin it tonight and record the emergency resolution." Leah continued. "Third, the foundation will review every use of patient images, names, treatment history, and personal testimony in recent fundraising materials. Anyone whose story was used without clear, respectful consent will be contacted directly." Mr. Price lowered his eyes. Not in shame this time. "In recognition." "Fourth," Leah said, "the foundation will make whole the clinics harmed by delayed or redirected funding when community concerns were removed from the record. That includes Southside Mercy Clinic and any other clinic identified in the review." The board member who had whispered earlier stood halfway from his chair. "This is too much to decide in front of a ballroom," he said. "We need to protect the foundation from a media disaster." Franklin turned toward him. "The disaster already happened," he said. "The question is whether the foundation tells the truth before someone else tells it for us." Another trustee, an older woman in a silver jacket, looked at Leah. "If we agree to this tonight," she asked, "will you sign tonight?" Leah looked through the open ballroom doors toward the trustee room. She could not see the pen from where she stood, but she knew exactly where it was. "No," she said. The answer moved through the guests like a held breath breaking. Leah kept her voice steady. "I will review the written record when it is complete. I will not trade a signature for a promise made under pressure and forgotten by morning. For the first time, the applause that began was not polished. It started near the back, from a table of clinic staff who had not been near the cameras all night. Then it moved, uneven and human, through the room. Mr. Price did not clap. He looked at Leah with something quieter than pride. Marianne placed the emergency resolution on the lectern and read each condition aloud. The board voted in public, one by one, their voices captured by the ballroom microphones they had originally set up for celebration. Yes. 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 The hesitant trustee looked at Franklin, then at the dark screen behind the stage. Yes. Marianne marked the final vote. The emergency corrective record is adopted, she said. Vivian Cross remains relieved of authority pending formal review. Grant release remains paused until compliance is documented and Miss Mercer's confirmation is complete. Marcus added from the speaker that the emergency vote would still need formal documentation by morning, but the board's direction was now on record. There was no cheering this time, only a different kind of silence, a silence with work inside it. Marianne turned to Mr. Price. Mr. Price, she said, you were invited tonight as a community speaker. If you still wish to speak, the microphone is yours. No script. Mr. Price looked at the stage, then at the table where the printed speech still lay beside a folded napkin. He did not pick it up. Leah offered her arm, but he shook his head with a small smile. I can walk to this one, he said. He climbed the stage steps slowly. No video played behind him. No music swelled. No smiling, patient photograph appeared on the screen to tell the guests what to feel. Mr. Price adjusted the microphone. He looked out at the donors, the trustees, the staff, and the people who had been watching suffering from a safe distance all evening. My name is Samuel Price, he said, and before I thank anybody, I want to tell you what respect sounds like. Leah stood below the stage with the gray folder in her hands. Behind her, in the trustee room, the pen still waited. 3 months later, Leah Mercer unlocked the front door of Southside Mercy Clinic at 6:20 in the morning. The street was still blue with early light. A bus hissed at the corner. Someone had dropped a paper coffee cup near the curb, and the wind kept nudging it against the same brick. Leah held the door open with her shoulder while she balanced a stack of mail against her hip. The clinic smelled the way it always did before the day began. Floor cleaner, old radiator heat, coffee that had not finished brewing, paper forms waiting to become somebody's problem. Nothing about it looked like a victory scene. That was what Leah liked about it. The new reception desk had been delivered 2 weeks earlier, not because a donor wanted a plaque on it, but because the old one had a drawer that stuck so badly, 2 nurses had learned to kick it open. The waiting room chairs matched now. The children's corner had books that were not missing their last pages. The front door had a working automatic button, installed after Mrs. Alvarez told the new Oversight Council that dignity sometimes meant not needing to ask a stranger to pull a door for you. The council had listened. That still surprised Leah, even after 3 meetings. She set the mail down and switched on the small lamp near the check-in window. On top of the pile was an envelope from the Whitcomb Foundation. No crest embossed in gold this time, just a plain return address and a printed label. Inside was the final compliance notice. Funding release completed. Community Oversight Council seated. Patient media review underway. Corrective payments scheduled. Leah read the lines twice, not because she doubted them, but because she had learned to respect the difference between words spoken under pressure and words documented after everyone had gone home. This one had signatures. Marcus Reed's, Marianne Holt's, hers. The money had arrived in stages, not with cameras. First, the overdue clinic reimbursements, then the equipment grant, then the staffing funds that allowed Leah to hire 2 full-time care coordinators instead of asking the same tired nurse to do 3 jobs and call it commitment. No oversized check had crossed the lobby. No photographer had asked Mr. Price to stand near a window and look grateful. On the wall behind reception, where the board had offered to hang a framed Gala photograph, Leah had hung a smaller sign instead. No one enters through the service door here. When the sign first arrived, Mr. Price had stared at it for almost a minute. A little stern, don't you think? He had said. A little true, Leah had answered. That morning, as if the memory had called him, Mr. Price came through the front door with a silver coffee urn tucked under one arm and a paper bag swinging from his wrist. "Before you say anything," he said, "this is not a donation. This is community infrastructure." Leah smiled. "Is that what we're calling coffee now?" "Only the good kind." He set the urn on the reception counter with ceremony and pulled a package of cups from the bag. Mr. Price looked better than he had at the gala. Not younger. Leah never trusted stories that made healing look like time running backward. He simply looked more like himself. His coat was the same brown one. His steps were still careful, but he no longer moved as if a room had already decided where he belonged before he entered it. "The new sign is still too serious," he said. "You say that every week." "Because every week it is still true." The first nurse to arrive, Jamila, came in through the front door at 6:45 with her hair still damp from the shower and her badge clipped crooked to her sweater. "Morning, Mr. Price," she said. "Morning, Miss Jamila. Coffee is open for public comment." "Then the public approves." Leah laughed, and the sound felt small in the best way. Not like relief, not like triumph, like a normal morning becoming possible. Her computer chimed. An email from Nora Ellis waited in her inbox. Subject: "I thought you should know Leah opened it. Miss Mercer, I started in the hotel's Ethics and Guest Standards department this week. I do not know if that makes up for anything. I just know I did not want to be the kind of person who learns the right thing and then goes back to being quiet. Mr. Price's speech is still the only part of that night people talk about for the right reasons. Thank you for asking questions out loud." Nora Leah sat with the email for a moment. She did not forward it. She did not frame it. She moved it into a folder labeled Keep, then closed the inbox before the day could become about the gala again. The gala had done enough taking. At 7 o'clock, the first patient arrived. She was an older woman in a navy coat, one hand gripping a cane and the other holding a folded appointment card. She paused at the threshold, reading the sign on the wall, as if checking whether it was meant for her. Jamila looked up from the front desk. "Good morning, Mrs. Ellison," she said. "We're glad you're here." The woman's face softened at the sound of her name, not her case number, not her donor category, her name. Mr. Price moved behind the counter as if he had worked there for years and poured coffee into a paper cup. "Cream?" he asked. Mrs. Ellison blinked, then smiled. "Just a little." Leah stepped to the front door and pressed the automatic button. It opened cleanly, without sticking, without groaning, without asking anyone to prove they were important enough to enter. Outside, morning had reached the tops of the buildings. Inside, Jamila called the next name from the schedule. Mr. Price handed Mrs. Ellison her coffee. The new chairs waited. The sign stayed quiet on the wall. Leah rested her hand against the open door for 1 second longer than she needed to. There had been no stage here, no chandelier, No microphone waiting to turn pain into a program. Only people coming in through the front. And for Leah, that was enough. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. And if you believe every person deserves dignity, no matter how they look, like this video, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs the reminder. This is an original fictional story created for entertainment and moral reflection. Any resemblance to real people, companies, institutions, or events is purely coincidental.